Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi sallam. Amma ba'da, habibti fillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us with ikhlas, with thabat ala sunnat al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May Allah forgive us all of our sins and help us to come closer to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah Azza wa Jal bless us all with tawbah to nasuha. Ahabati fillah, no doubt we should never rejoice at the sins of others. We should never rejoice at the sins of other people, at the expense of other people. That when you see your brothers and sisters in Islam that are down, that are suffering, that are struggling, that are dealing with sin, dealing with difficulties in their lives, they strive your best to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive them, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide them, and ask Allah tabarak wa ta'ala to bless you and them with firmness, because none of us knows in what state we'll die, and none of us knows how we're going to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and none of us knows how will we even end in this life. You know, there are many opportunities to do shar, evil, and there are opportunities, of course, to do khair, which we need to increase and do more of. But if you rejoice in the way someone else is doing sin and making mistakes, perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive them and allow for you to be misguided. And the shar shows us this a lot. There's a lot of evidence to show us and illustrate this point, that misguidance, that state of affairs can happen to any of us. A'udhu billah min dhalik. May Allah tabarak wa ta'ala protect us all, bless us all, guide us all, and forgive us all. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. So, I was just listening to our Sheikh Abdul Razak Al-Badr Hafidhullah Ta'ala, and he was discussing this, and he cried several times in this short period of time in this lecture. And he was mentioning how Umar radiyallahu ta'ala, Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala, that he heard of a man who was a Muslim who was a drunkard. He was getting drunk and so forth, and it came to Umar radiyallahu ta'ala, this news. And he radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he sent a letter to be dispatched to this man, giving him salams and encouraging him to make tawbah to Allah. And Allah promises him, you know, the promises that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives, that, you know, you'll be in paradise, and that you'll, you know, all the aspects of forgiveness. So Umar wrote to this, and eventually the man responded, and from what I understood, he made tawbah, and it was the encouragement of Amir al-Mu'mineen Abu Hafs radiyallahu ta'ala, that he had encouraged this man. He could have said, no, we're going to punish you, no this, no that, la. But rather, Umar showed mercy to this man and encouraged this man to be on goodness and khair. And he encouraged him and gave him the glad tidings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant him forgiveness. Excuse me. That shows us, ahabati fillah, the importance of not rejoicing in the sins of others, and not becoming arrogant towards others when they are suffering and when they are afflicted by sins, and when they are dealing with trials and tribulations, and that any of us can also be in that state. And so it's imperative that we are always seeking forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we're seeking. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Kullu ibn Adam khata wa khayran khata'ina tawabun. All the children of Adam commit sins, and the best of those who sin are those who make repentance. So letting us know if we all sin, but the best from amongst us are those who make tawbah, and they make tawbah often. So seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala often, and also encourage others to make tawbah, and don't ridicule others when they are caught up in sins. And this is so important for us when we're dealing a lot of times with maybe new Muslims or just Muslims that are just suffering from difficulties of sins and the trials of life. It's the trials of life. Another benefit of Sheikh Abdul Razak's lecture I just recalled is that he also mentioned, and this is one of the things that made him start crying, is that the sins and those trials with regards to sins compared to the time of the Salaf is much greater now. And that's when he began to start to cry. And he began to start to feel the empathy for the believers who suffer from chronic sin. Because now, literally, you could be raised in a righteous household. Your parents go to sleep. You could be a teenager or something. And as one of the Yahud mentioned, that your son or daughter's room becomes a a prostitute's haven, basically, because you don't know what your children are doing when the door closes. And that is the difference of this time in the past. And all that could be through social media, and it could be through the various forms, the various internet platforms, because now it is so much the norm that people are doing munkar and fahisha and zina and the various types of zina that we could never have imagined, like on another level that even in the past they couldn't imagine. And it's publicized and it becomes entertainment. People from around the world gather together to watch what's in a person's bedroom, whether it's a husband and wife, whether it's a zina, whether they're Muslim or not. Whether they are Muslim or not, even people who might be in the fold of Islam that are advertising through their social media accounts as in order to gain money and status, they will sell their deen. They will, sell their chastity, commit zina, akramakumullah, all the other types of wickedness that can take place, and better than me, if not as much as me. Wallahu musta'an. So it shows how important it is, because we live in a time where there's so much evil, and it's so easy to reach us, the evil. Even if you try to protect your children, what they find just on YouTube, it might be, every kind of evil about transitioning, about becoming a male becoming a female, or a female becoming a male, or becoming in between that, or having relations with animals, or whatever it is that the people do this in this day and age. It's the sharr mustatira, the shar, the evil is widespread. So you have to do everything to protect yourself, and you have to do everything to try to make tawbah, and you have to do everything to encourage one another to make tawbah and not ridicule and laugh at one another, because we should be like the Sheikh Abdul Razak. Rather, he cried and he wept during the lecture of, the status of his brothers and sisters in Islam, regardless of where they are, what country, what nationality, what color, what shape or size, what madhab even. Rather, he cried because if they're Muslim, just that they're being afflicted with sinfulness and wickedness. And so we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us all, preserve us all, and forgive us all, and guide us all, and help us to be away from the ma'asi and the dhunub. So we'll see if there's any questions, and inshallah ta'ala, if we can take it before I get on my merry way, inshallah ta'ala. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum salam. May Allah bless you. I'm sure it's lagging because I'm out literally in the wilderness. So it's not going to be the best quality, but hopefully you can at least hear me. And that's the most important thing, is not just the beauty of what I see, but that you can hear what's being the message. What should I do if my mother talks with a Christian lady on the phone and takes her as a friend and invites her to the home and feeds her? She also asks her for advice and socializes. What should you do? Well, there's probably nothing you can really do, but try to make it a form of dawah in your own way. And just try to encourage your mother to be a source of good, to show the Christian lady the beauty of Islam. You can show her, if there's ways that you can, by giving her gifts, by giving her the best of your food. And this in Islam we do like this. We have these beautiful sweets. It's very common in this Muslim culture, such and such Muslim culture. And you can do little things to encourage them, so that way they know, if nothing else, that Muslims are not like that. Muslims are very kind. I have a Muslim friend, and the Muslim friend always gives me gifts. The Muslim friend always does goodness to me, and this and that and the other. So that's what you can do. You can be a part of that, and encourage your mother to also to be cognizant of dawah. That she can be a source of positive and inspiration. Now, in Walmart, they sometimes sell kosher hot dogs. Is it allowed to eat them since the Jews are very strict in their slaughter? Well, what I would say is I eat them almost every week. I barbecue with them. We have them in the home. So they're kosher. You can eat them. Inshallah ta'ala. Kosher beef jerky, kosher turkey, it really doesn't matter. There's no stipulation that it can only be kosher hot dogs. There's no stipulation. As long as it is kosher meat that we can, obviously they don't eat pork anyway, so you don't have to worry about that. But if they're meat, if it's one of the animals that we normally would partake in, and it's kosher, then you can eat it, inshallah ta'ala. They are from Ahl Kitab bi'idhnillah ta'ala. In the section of your PhD, it mentions that you survived a mosque bombing. Alhamdulillah, you're okay. Did this happen during your studies in Yemen? Yes, it did happen in Yemen. I didn't know I wrote that in there. But yeah, that was an incident in a very famous masjid that most of the brothers that are Salafi will know, the masjid in Sana'a, in the capital. And it was called Masjid al-Khair, Jam al-Khair. In a neighborhood called Bir al-Bayd. That's the old hood. So anyhow, ala kulli hal, yes, what happened is they don't know. This was the time Sheikh Muqbil was alive, Allah yarhamuhu, and it was well known that a lot of Western students and students from around the world would congregate in this masjid. It was the Salafees, the most accommodating, aside from maybe Ikhwan Muslimin. They also had large amounts of foreign students. So what happened is whoever had put a bomb in the masjid, okay, and we were praying Jumu'ah. I was inside, and the masjid also had an outside, the outside area, like a big outside tent, if you will, kind of under, I think it was under like metal, like a metal tinted area outside as well, because so many people coming for Jumu'ah. I don't know how many, maybe thousands. I don't know about thousands, but maybe 1,000. I don't know. It was a pretty big masjid at the time, and it used to be very open and a lot of free movement and stuff like this. So anyway, someone put some sort of bomb, and it was a makeshift bomb that had a lot of shrapnel inside the some sort of can or something, and it was from in front of the bathroom area. And that bathroom area, well, kind of the bathroom area, but also where a lot of foreigners used to congregate after Jumu'ah. So what happened after Salatul Jumu'ah, you know, the people were gathering and congregating. I remember I was talking to a talib al-ilm from Somalia. And I was asking him, you know, hey, I want you to do some Arabic classes or something similar to this. You know, help me improve my Arabic and what have you. And then all of a sudden, I remember there was a big boom, and it reminded me of the cartoons. You know, those old cartoons where you see the plume of smoke, and then you see like some clothing left there. So what happened is a good friend of mine, inshallah, I hope he's still alive. I don't know, may Allah preserve him. His name is Abu Zainab. He'd been in Yemen forever. He's from America, and he was been paralyzed from the waist down, I think, his whole life, and he had crutches. So Abu Zainab, when I came out of them to see what happened after the bomb, you know, I saw like smoke, and I saw his crutches there, and it was like the cartoon, you know, how like nothing's left but, you know, just two shoes or something like this. But alhamdulillah, some people had dragged him away from that, but he had gotten hit a little bit. My beautiful brother Ali Compton Clark, he got hit with a little shrapnel, and I think he still had that in his body till he died. Allah yarhamahu. That wasn't the cause of his death, but you know, it was from that incident. You know, I think he had something that went a little bit into his neck, just a little bit. You know, something minor, where he went to the hospital for a little bit, and that was it. And also there was some other Western brothers and myself, and the only people who were helping was myself and two British brothers at the time. Their names were Hamza and Rashad. You know, they were, you know, students of knowledge. They made a hijrah there, and they were trying to stay with their families and do talab al-ilm in Sana'a. Anyhow, we were carrying bodies. We were picking up Yemenis and people and trying to put them in these trucks to take them to the hospital. And I remember I still may have the thobe that I was wearing that day, and it had blood stains, and then I eventually cleaned it, of course I cleaned it, but I've had that thobe for many years. I think I possibly might have it because it was a tailor-made thobe. Anyway, ala kulli hal, 3 people died, and you know, that was just real horrendous that someone would do that at the Salafi masjid, or any masjid for that matter. And so they never did. You know, there was a lot of accusations going around about who did it. So who knows? Some people blame the government. Some people, you know, to have some kind of conspiracy to say, hey, it's all these foreigners or this, or it could have been the communists because, you know, it was a Salafi masjid, and so they hated Sheikh Muqbil and of course anyone associated with him. But only Allah knows best who was really responsible, but someone did. So the masjid, it changed its security after that. But one of the things I realized, which kind of disappointed me, is, like I said, only myself and those 2 other brothers that I can really recall were trying to help people. Everybody else was like casual. It's like, oh, yeah, it's just another bomb here. No, you know, even the imam, who's a well-known sheikh, may Allah bless us in him and forgive us in him, and I love the sheikh actually, but you know, there was no sense of urgency, and it was, I don't know if they were fearful of political, like if they got involved, I don't know that they would be arrested. I don't know what was going on. All I know is us Westerners were the ones who were really the most active, you know, because I can remember carrying a Yemeni and, you know, picking him up, holding part of his body. I mean, his body was one full body, but, you know, I was holding maybe the upper part, and somebody was holding his legs, trying to put him in a truck, in the back of a pickup truck, to get him to the hospital. And I could see inside a lot of his chest, and there was like shrapnel and stuff like this. So he got hit really bad. So he killed, may Allah have mercy upon them, killed 3 Yemenis, students of knowledge, you know, or whatever, you know, shabab, and Allah yarhamahum. And that's a little bit about that scenario. Yeah. So yeah, that happened in Yemen a long time ago. May Allah have mercy upon us all, I mean. What if my mother lacks knowledge in order to invite the lady to Islam? Well, your mother is a Muslim, inshallah ta'ala, so maybe she knows about Tawheed. She can just say a kalimat al-khair that encourages us. And you know enough about Tawheed. You can find a polite, nice way. You don't have to say, hey, I'm giving you dawah. But you can go in there and say, oh, auntie, or whatever, as a Muslim, we do this. I want you to try one of these halal cookies. Whatever opens the door that you can be a source of good in dawah. So it's a part of dawah anyway, as long as she's not taking her as an intimate companion and being influenced by her dawah or something like this. But she can play a good role. So you just make her cognizant of that. So that way she knows and she can put their relationship in perspective. Now, if you've already advised them, they know. I mean, you can continue to advise them. So I don't know about how is just using your mouth and continue to advise them, show them the proofs. If they've already bought it, they're already in it, but tell them that, that this is a serious sin and you should do everything possible to finish that payment and get out of that contract, finish it or what have you. Just encourage them. Can excessively indulging in permissible things cause hardness of the heart? Yes, it can, if you are doing something that's not really as or something. If that's what you do, then no, you're not praying or you're not on time because you're always in the game, you're so caught up, you become awal bara based on the teams, all these kind of things. Yes, then it can be sinful and it can be very harmful. And then it can move to that particular activity being impermissible for you. Or at least it could be a wasila, a means to the muharram and being wasteful of your deen. So it can be very dangerous. But its origin is that it's permissible. If you hadn't enjoyed it in a balanced fashion where it didn't consume your deen or distract you from the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, so I've done a lot of videos about sincere Tawbah to Nasuha. And again, that takes sincerity. Sincerity is gonna be from your heart that you really want to leave the sin, or that a person really wants to leave the sin. So that's going to come by making a legitimate effort, not just on their tongue, but that they really feel sorrow and they really are determined, truly determined, not just on their tongue, not just partially, but they're really determined to leave the sin. That's Tawbah, okay? And that's sincere Tawbah. And then they cut off the way to that sin. But if they're not doing that, then they haven't really made Tawbah. It's not really sincere Tawbah, so they'll continue to do sin more than likely. Wallahu musta'an. Is it permissible? I don't know anything that makes it impermissible, but it's going to depend on their age. It's going to depend on their usage, and are the parents watching and observing what their children are watching and what they're upon? What websites they're on and so forth. Now, what are your thoughts on Sheikh Saleh al-Sheikh? Can we seek knowledge from the Sheikh? If the Sheikh knew me, you should ask him about me. The Sheikh is an alim, mufid. He's an alim which has immense benefits. Now, Is it haram to look for ways to lower desires or become impotent? Yes, you should not do that. You should not get yourself a vasectomy or something to have your akramakumullah, your desires removed, or take drugs or something. No, that's not the thing. Instead, you should start earning a livelihood so you can begin to prepare to take a woman in marriage. Now, what do you mean intimate companion? Can you elaborate? What if this relationship is based on worldly matters and trying to befriend the kuffar? Well, then if it's based on those worldly matters, meaning worldly matters can be divided into those things, as you said, trying to emulate, making, taqleed, or trying to follow someone who disbelieves in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and trying to follow them for their disbelief. Well, if you're trying to follow them for their disbelief, then this is disbelief. But if you're following them, you think that they're cool, you think that they're more modern, you want to, then this is muharram. So that's what we intend by intimate companions. That you shouldn't have your innermost secrets and so forth, because they share another faith. They don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're not going to remind you in the worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, if they ask you about concubines, just tell them you don't know. As you said, you don't know much about it. Tell them exactly that. Tell them, I don't know. I don't know. But if they want to ask you about Tawheed, then tell them. Don't get into discussions and stuff. If people try to drag you in and just say, I don't know. I don't know if this is from the religion. I don't know. If you know it's from the religion, then you can say, yes, I know it's from the religion, but I don't really have many details about it. They ask you about jihad or ask you about something of controversy because they don't want to know. They just want to bring out doubts about Islam. Then just cut the rope to that. Tax returns, your tax return is your money that you paid into the system that they took from you. So it is permissible to get your tax money back. How come Shaykh al-Islam and Imam Nawawi didn't get married despite marriage being a big part of the deen? Because some people are able to control themselves and they are on that level of, in their life. And, I guess you could say piety and stuff, but that is not necessarily from piety. We know that marriage is from piety. So, but because of their immense scholarship, meaning that they were active in seeking knowledge and in disseminating knowledge, and that was their love, then that is one of the reasons why they didn't get married. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, from my understanding, had right-hand possessions. He had slave girls, so he may not have married, but he still enjoyed relations in a halal fashion. So, no. So that is, obviously that's not what we want to follow. But for example, there are those rare exceptions. If there are those people who are not having fitna, they're not bothered by not being married and their desires are low and they want to devote themselves to worship and seeking knowledge and disseminating knowledge, then the scholars mention la bas, because there are some mashayikh, even one of the major mashayikh in Saudi, from what I understand, I think he's not married and he likes to serve his mother and he's an alim. Now, as I said, you can use your tax return. What to do if uncle is a takfeeree? There's nothing you can do about it. He's your uncle. He's older than you. Okay? He's your elder. Don't debate him. Don't argue. One thing I want to mention to you guys, because we get a lot of these questions, and I think mainly they're from really young people, meaning teens and stuff like this. What to do with my mother? What to do with my uncle? What to do with my grandfather? What if my 96-year-old grandmother? Okay, those things, you don't have anything you have no power over them. You have no ability to really change them. So if they are engaging in haram and stuff, you can advise them to the best of your ability in a gentle and kind respect. You can do something like that, being respectful. But don't try to take power over them and speak ill of them and make hedger of them, or not speak to your uncle. No, but you can see if he says that, that's his ability. If I meet every person I meet that is saying something that totally goes against my belief, I'm not automatically just going to jump in and debate with them and argue. Everything, it has its place. That's where hikmah. For example, I'll give you a real example. Yesterday, a Muslim neighbor, may Allah bless us, and you have the most scholars and scholarship in America, Islamic scholars. And then he started naming. He said, Yasser Qadi, Nu'man Ali Khan, and Omar Suleiman. That's exactly the people he named. And then he might have even mentioned someone else. There was no sense in me debating with him. I understand his orientation. That was outside of the context. There was no benefit in me saying, Akhi, what? Oh, they're all mubtadi'ah, or they're this. Let me try to explain to you. No, the guy, alhamdulillah, he prays. He's trying to, he loves Islam. He's a good neighbor. Everything has its right place. I've heard him on more occasions, but we don't have those kind of relations, nor would it be beneficial for me to say, oh, that guy's a mubtadi'ah. Oh, you have love for him, da-da-da-da. Or maybe you love him only because they're all Pakistani, or they're all have that, that background, Pakistani, Indian background, blah, 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 whatever. No, that's ghayr munasib. So you command the good and forbidding the evil. It takes fiqh fi deen, and everything in its rightful place. It takes hikmah and wisdom. So not every time, every maqam is going to be ripe for introducing every masail. I'll just say it like that. Naam, it takes fiqh. Are there any fiqh courses at Al-Athari Institute? Also, is there any link we can donate? Yeah, Athari Institute, you can go. It's usually on all these, my description of the in the description of all these videos, you can find the link for donations, and you can find the link for joining. And if you go to the website, as I've mentioned prior, that there are free courses. You can do some free courses. They're there. And if you want to contribute and join a paid course, then join a paid course. There's also a fiqh course, the fiqh of salat, the fiqh of tahara and salat, the fiqh of tahara and salat. We have so far from the contribute, inshallah ta'ala. That is a way and a means to do so. What I would say in general is just stick with Islam. Just stick with Islam. Don't try to find other ideology. Islam gives you your manhood. Islam gives us the women their womanhood. Now, your mother's making takfeer of you, or making takfeer of your brother or your sister or what have you. Again, all you can do is try to be gentle when you're under the rule, when you are the household of your mother. Be respectful. You're of age and you have the ability, then move out and get your own place and begin your own life, and always maintain positive